Samweli B, I need to tell you something before it becomes too late. Samweli, and I already know I shouldn't be saying it like this. With my voice, this unsteady, Samweli yells into you. With the lights in the room turned low and the rest of the world finally quiet. Samweli B into you, but if I wait for the perfect moment, the moment will never come. Sam, and you will go on, never knowing the one thing I have been carrying for longer than you would believe. Samweli B into you. So let me start with the part that frightens me most. I am not okay right now. Now, and the strange thing, the thing that makes no sense to a man like me, is that the reason has nothing to do with anything I am supposed to fear. Isn't a rocket coming apart in the upper atmosphere? It isn't a launch slipping past its window? Isn't the money, the company, thousands of people whose livelihoods sit on my decisions every single morning? Sampoli bihi hur. I have survived all of that. Sampoli binin tawik. I have stood in a control room and watched years of my life turn into a streak of fire and falling. Zidaj and I still went home and slept. But this is different. This I cannot engineer my way out of. This is you. Sampoli binin deal. And the most terrifying part of all is that I am not sure you have any idea what you have done to me. See, my whole life has followed one pattern, and I have never tried to hide it. I built Sampoli being entire truths and adding honor sound acido, maybe you versapian impo. Sis Sybil, Sampoli breathes, I calculate risk the way other people breathe. Sampoli being tau, I move toward the uncertain thing while everyone around me is still deciding whether to be afraid. Sin, that is the role I have played in this world for as long as I can remember. Seong, the man who runs toward the fire, the man who does not flinch when the structure begins to fail. Samprali being in Tao, but somewhere in the last few weeks, something inside me began to come loose. Sound. And I do not like admitting that. Because when a man like me starts to feel the ground move, Samrali you means something far below the surface has already shifted. Samoli Urgentifi it means someone has reached a place inside me that almost no one has ever touched. Sampoli be into you, and that someone is you. Do you understand what that does to a man who has spent decades building walls so high and so quiet as empires that even he forgot they were there? Do you understand what happens when a person like me suddenly begins to care about losing one specific? See, human being, out of all the billions on this small blue planet, Stiaonin, it creates fear, real fear, not the kind that comes from danger. Sam, because danger, I have made peace with. The kind that comes from attachment, and attachment, steer wife, is the most dangerous thing I know. Sing, because the instant you let yourself care about someone this deeply, see while you also create the possibility of losing them. Sing, and losing you is a possibility. I never built any system to survive. Sekoli B, that is what has been keeping me awake. You probably think I am calm when we talk. Same what even you might even think. I am a little distant sometimes, a little slow to answer. A little too quick to change the subject when the conversation turns towards something real. Sound. But what you cannot see is the storm happening behind that silence. Sample the enough you have changed the way my mind works, and I do not say that lightly. Sound. Because my mind is the one thing I have always been able to trust. It runs on logic, on physics, sound, probability, on the cold and beautiful certainty of numbers. Somehow you introduce something into the system that follows no equation. I know, emotion. Sing, real emotion. And it is destabilizing everything. Samkoli being in Dioken, I catch myself thinking of you at the worst possible moments. Sing dear Lentiu, in the middle of a meeting where $400 million hangs on what I decide. Sing, late at night when the building has emptied and the only sound is the hum of the machines. Even in those rare minutes, when my mind is finally supposed to rest, instead it drifts straight back to you. Your voice, your patience, the way you actually listen, same only a world where almost everyone is only waiting for their turn to speak. Sampoli Bininti. And I keep asking myself a question I never used to ask, what happens if I lose her? Single question has been enough to pull apart everything I thought was solid. Or because for most of my life, losing people was something I could absorb. Painful, yes. But survivable, because I always had the work, the mission, the next horizon to walk toward. Sim, but with you, it feels different. With you, it feels like losing something that cannot be rebuilt, something that does not come around twice in one lifetime. Sim, and that realization has been quietly tearing me apart. You probably think this is a compliment, isn't it? It isn't. It is a confession. Samo the because caring about someone this much opens a kind of vulnerability I have spent my entire life sinarning to avoid. Samkoli being in you, and the worst part, the part I can barely say out loud, is that I do not even know whether you feel anything close to what I am feeling. Samkoli B, why? That uncertainty is the thing that keeps the lights off and my eyes open at 3 in the morning. Sometimes I wonder if you have any idea how much power you hold without ever lifting a finger. Samoli with humane, you can steady me or unravel me with 3 or 4 words. That should not be possible. Sound, not for someone like me. And yet, here we are, future wife. Form, you have managed to do something no investor, no rival, critical, stout, no critic on the entire planet has ever done. You have made me unsure of myself. Sam Coley B. Main, and that is exactly why I am not okay tonight. But here is the part I have not told you yet. Savely, the reason this is reaching me so deeply is not what you think it is. Samfuli verbenti wainot. There is something else underneath all of it, something far larger than a feeling, something I have been holding back for a long time. Sam, because the moment I say it out loud, there is no way to unsay it. Samfuli being in die, and I am not certain you are ready to hear it. So before I tell you that truth, Sanwalios you for one small thing. If you are still here, still listening to the sound of my voice in the dark, then it probably means some part of you feels something too. So, subscribe quietly, Sam, and tell me which part of the sky you can see from wherever you are tonight. Because the truth I am about to give you is written somewhere up there, Sam, and I want to know that you are looking when I finally said it. Future wife. There is something about silence that almost everyone misunderstands. People think silence means distance. They think it means a person has gone cold or lost interest. Sapoliber simply has nothing worth saying, but the truth is usually the opposite. Silence is what happens when the mind is carrying something too heavy to set down all at once. Sam, and lately when you notice me, go quiet. When my answers come slower than they used to, say out. When my voice drops and the pauses stretch a little longer than they should, it's not because I have stopped caring. It's because I care so much that the words get caught somewhere between my chest and my throat. See, the dangerous thing about falling for someone when you are no longer young, simply when life has already tested you, when you have watched things you believed in fall apart, is that you do not walk into it blindly anymore. You see every risk with terrible clarity. Samoli Renanchit, you understand exactly how fragile two people can be. Sampoli be into you, and so when someone finally begins to slip past your defenses, you do not celebrate, you hesitate. Sing, you question everything twice, and that is precisely where I have been living. Samoli be in the narrow space between certainty and doubt. Sapoli be kantiwi, because one part of me feels something powerful, growing in the quiet between us, something steady, something that does not feel rushed or reckless, the way younger love so often does. Samboli when I talk to you, the noise of the world goes still for a moment. Sampoli being in doubt, and that kind of stillness is rare. Sambrali orana, rare enough that most people spend their whole lives searching for it and walk away empty. Sampoli being in Dowie, but another part of me keeps asking a colder question. It's one that visits me whenever the room goes dark. What if I am wrong about you? Samuel the and I, I'm not wrong about your kindness, not wrong about the warmth I feel when we talk. Say out, because those things are real, and I can feel them as clearly as gravity. Samuel the human beings are complicated. Samkoli being enough, and sometimes we paint meaning onto a person simply because we want so badly for them to be who our heart hopes they are. Sapfoli me to you, that thought unsettles me. Because if I let myself believe in you completely, Sapfoli's honesty enormous. I'm going to share 4 hidden truths, then the stakes turn enormous. Suddenly you are no longer just a voice I look forward to. Suddenly you become someone who could break me in ways I have carefully avoided my entire life. You understand what I am saying? People assume that men who build empires are fearless. Stirrers is something we almost never admit. The more you build, Sinov, the more carefully you guard the small, fragile world inside your chest. Sample the mean not because you have grown cold, stout, but because you have learned exactly how much it costs to trust the wrong person at the wrong time. Sample behin cheaping and somehow you slipped past all of it. I did not even notice it happening at first. Sample it was gradual. A conversation here, a quiet laugh there. Sim, a few unexpected silences, where we both felt something deeper, and neither of us rushed to name it. Sam, and before I understood what was happening, my mind had already begun building a place for you. Sam will lead me not just in my days, but in my future. And once a man starts imagining a future with someone, Stiroi, he is already standing on a dangerous edge. Sam will lead me Nati, let me tell you about the night it began to change. I had finished an exhausting day, Sikine, where the brain feels like it has been running at full thrust for 16 hours without a single second of true rest. Sample on nights like that, my mind always returns to the same place, problems, solutions, Zina. The next design, the next launch, Zina. The next impossible thing that has to be made possible before anyone else gets there first. Sample Bihin Tao. But that night, something different happened. My mind did not go to the company. Sing, it did not go to the engines, or the schedules, or the future of the species. It went to you. Say out. Not in some grand sweeping way, not in a flood of romance, in a small, quiet, sad almost ordinary way that caught me completely off guard. Sampoli being in Nada, I found myself wondering how your day had gone, whether you had eaten. Sampoli whether something small had made you laugh and made the world feel a little lighter for a moment. Sao, and that, future wife, is the moment something in me came loose. Sao, because caring about those small invisible details means a line has already been crossed. Samoli, it means someone has moved from interesting person to person who matters. Sao, and that distance is enormous and almost no one ever crosses it. Have any idea how rare that is for a man like me? Samuel lead me in now. My life is surrounded by thousands of people, engineers, investors, reporters, critics, admirers, enemies. People arrive and leave in an endless tide. Conversations happen every hour of every day. Sample you, but almost no one ever manages to stay in my mind once the world finally goes quiet. You did. Sample being in town, and that forced me to ask a question that felt far more serious than I expected. Why her? Calm. Why this calm, patient, unhurried woman? Out of everyone. Sam, what is it about you that walks straight through defenses? I have been reinforcing for decades. Sam Raleigh B. I studied that question the way I study a failing system. I took it apart. Same, I looked at every possible explanation. Maybe it was curiosity, maybe admiration, same, maybe loneliness wearing the mask of affection, because the mind can be a liar when it is tired. Same will lead me and be old man, but the more honestly I examined it, the more uncomfortable the answer became. Centrally deep in my it was not loneliness, it was not curiosity, it was simply you. Something about the way you think. Same with the way you respond without rushing to impress me or to win the conversation. Same with you curing. You carry a kind of quiet gravity that pulls attention toward you instead of demanding it. Samt, and that is far more powerful than most people will ever understand. Because true presence, stautum, calm presence, is almost extinct in this loud and frantic world. See, most people compete for the spotlight. You simply stand still, and somehow, the light finds you. Samuel Lee B. At first, I thought it was only refreshing, a peaceful conversation in the middle of a chaotic life. Stone. But slowly, that peace turned into something far more complicated. Samuel Lee being in Noji, I began looking forward to your voice. I began noticing how my mood shifted after we spoke. Sifolierd, the way the air feels different after a storm has passed. Samkolid me in now ways. I began to realize your words carried more weight than they had any right to, given how little time you have technically been in my life. Samkolid Wervent. And that is when fear quietly entered the equation. Samkoli mitisio, because once someone has that kind of influence over your inner weather, say hold a power you never consciously handed them. You gave it to them simply by caring. Sam, and that, future wife, is where everything becomes dangerous. Future wife. Sim, let me tell you about a single moment. Seout, because it is small enough that you have probably forgotten it, and large enough that I never will. Sam Woody were beefing we were talking late, the way we sometimes do, and I had said something about being tired. It's the kind of thing I say, without thinking, the kind of thing most people answer with a reflex. Stay with rest up or take care of yourself. Stinkodi or benti words. People throw at a tired man so they can move the conversation back to what they want. Sit how do you talk about? Sao. But you did not do that. You stopped. You asked me what kind of tired it was. Same will be you. You actually waited for the answer. And I remember sitting there, holding the phone, sat realizing that no one had asked me that in years, not my engineers. Sam, not the people who depend on me. Sound, not the people who admire me from a distance and assume a man who builds rockets must be made of some, sing harder than the rest of them. See the empire, and they forget there is a person inside it who gets tired in ways that have not sing to do with sleep. Same what you did not forget you asked. Sing oli reefing, and something in me that had been clenched for a very long time, loosened just slightly. Still, just for a moment. Sankoli being in tea, and I understood that this was the thing I had been missing without ever letting myself name it. Sao, not admiration, not attention. I have more of those than any man could ever need. Sam, what I'd been missing was the simple, Sampoli being dot almost unbearable experience of being seen by someone who wanted nothing from me except the truth of Sappho how I would. Have any idea how rare that is at the altitude I live at? Everyone wants something. Cision, an investment, a photograph, a quote, a piece of the future I am building. Sample the being now was, and then there was you, asking what kind of tired it was, wanting nothing but the answer. Sing, that is the moment, if I am honest, that I stopped being able to step back. Sing, everything after. It was just my mind slowly catching up to what my heart had already decided. Sample me sentium, and that is the cruel mathematics of caring about someone. Zikoi. The very thing that makes you precious to me is the thing that makes losing you unsurvivable. If you were ordinary to me, your absence would be ordinary too. Samwadi bqt, but you reach the one part of me that no amount of success has ever been able to fill. Sao. And now, that part has a shape, and the shape is you. Samkoli being Indiang, and I do not know how to go back to the version of that emptiness that did not know your name. People assume that men who have everything are immune to this kind of need. Amim tufin inoraps, they could not be more wrong. The more you build, Sinavs, the more you are surrounded by people who need you. Sim, and the fewer people there are who you are allowed to need. Need is a luxury. I was never permitted. Same will lead mean, a man in my position cannot lean. He cannot show the soft underside of himself. Sout, because there is always someone watching, someone waiting, someone who would turn that softness into a weakness to be exploited. Sample being, so I learned to carry it all alone. And I told myself that was strength. Sample being in Dawi, and for a long time, I almost believed it. And then you asked what kind of tired it was. Sao, and The whole careful structure of that belief developed a crack, so fine, I could not even see it. Sim, only feel it, a draft of something getting in, that I had spent decades sealing out. Future why. Sampoli be into why and I've saying, I have spent my entire life trusting logic over feeling the philosophy that built everything I have. Sim would the innate we let me take enormous risks without being paralyzed by fear. Sim would roll beetleway. It let me walk away from situations that no longer made sense, even when walking away hurt. Safoli Dums 18, a logic has been my engine and my shield. Sample the begin cheaping nano. What happens when logic and emotion finally sit down at the same table and refuse to agree? Sit holy behenti waited that is the position you have put me in logically. I should be careful, I should slow down. Sample the begin cheapy and I should test the ground beneath this before stepping any deeper. Sample the begin cheapy now of folly, that is what a disciplined mind does. But emotionally, sample the begin tawa, I am already far past the point logic would have allowed. Emotionally, Sim, I am already in deeper than I planned, deeper than I knew, and there is no clean way back to shore. Sampoli being in doubt we not, and that forced me to confront a possibility I did not want to look at direct. Sam what if you do not realize how much I have come to care? Samprili machine me, because sometimes I sense a certain carefulness in your voice, not coldness, not rejection, just a kind of guardedness, as though you are measuring each word before you let it reach me. Sample the being in tea, and it makes me ask a question I have never had the courage to ask you out loud. Samuel the Verbenti, are you protecting yourself from me? Safoli, or are you protecting me from something I do not yet understand? Because if it is the second one, then there is a truth hidden somewhere in the space between us, a truth I have not found yet. Sampoli mean, and that frightens me more than any failure ever has. Future wife. Sarah, there is a moment in a person's life when something inside has already changed before he consciously decides to let it spy it. It is almost invisible. But once it happens, seeing you can never go back to the version of yourself that existed before it. Samkoli being in tea, and I have come to understand that this moment has already happened to me because of you. Samkoli be you mean? I wish I could tell you it struck like lightning. Sanholiumsi, that everything became clear in a single brilliant flash. Samuel the inti boardmud, but the truth is far slower and far more dangerous than that. Samuel Urusenti Wainturov, it happened across dozens of small moments that seemed like nothing at the time and now feel enormous. Samuel the way my mind reaches for you when something interesting happens during the day, is wondering how you would react if I told you. Samuel the way the future has started to rearrange itself around the shape of your presence. Sampoli being in now, when I imagine the years ahead, now you appear there without effort, without invitation. Samkoli me in Nabian, I imagine conversations we have not had yet, places I want to take you. Samwodi mornings that feel quieter and warmer. Simply because you are in the room, images arrive on their own, and once they appear, they refuse to leave. Samkoli being in Nay, and the night I noticed that my chest tightened in a way I was not prepared for. Seo, because I realized I had already begun building emotional space for you in my life. Sim, and building space for someone means you have already begun preparing for them to stay. Simo B, it means your mind has quietly accepted that this person might not be a chapter. This person might be the entire story. But that is exactly where the fear begins, future wife. Sampoli be intiwi, because when you prepare a place for someone, you also expose the most vulnerable part of yourself. Seo, you are quietly saying, this space belongs to you, if you choose to walk into it. Sampoli being in and the terrifying thing about that offer is the silence that might follow. Safolibi, the possibility that the other person will hesitate at the threshold, or worse, choose not to enter at all. Do you understand why that thought has been haunting me? It is not rejection I fear the most. I have been rejected before. Seot, and life teaches you how to survive it. Safoli, what frightens me far more is the idea of two people who genuinely care for each other, missing the same any moment that mattered, simply because neither of them found the courage to be honest in time. Skewer has destroyed more love than cruelty ever has. Far more. Samkoli Bininti, and that is why I am speaking now instead of staying safe in my silence. Samwodi because of something you said recently that has not left my mind since the moment I heard it. Samwodi even you might not even remember saying it. Samwodi Ozen. It was one of those small remarks people make without realizing the weight it carries for the person. Sam on the other end. Said you did not want to complicate my life. At first I smiled, it sounded thoughtful. Sample selfless. But the more I replayed it, the more it unsettled me. Because love is complicated by its very nature. Seo, when two lives truly begin moving toward each other, complexity is not optional. Schedules collide. Priorities shift. Sing, emotions deepen. Until two people have to learn how to move through the world as something more separate individuals. Samuel. So when you told me you did not want to complicate my life, Samkolite alarm went off somewhere inside me. Samkoli B. I started to wonder if those gentle words were actually you preparing, very kindly, still to keep your distance. Future wife. Samuel the is something I've been carrying that almost no one ever sees. From the outside. Stat my life looks like an unbroken line of victories. People watch the rockets climb. Samuel the they read the headlines about bold visions and impossible deadlines. Samuel the Urbanti argue about me online, as though I am a character in a story rather than a man who goes home to sound an empty house. Samuel the Indi assume the person behind all of it must be fearless, must wake every morning with certainty running through his veins. Samuel the Bidin people into us, but the truth beneath ambition is far more fragile than the world likes to believe. Everyone who builds something meaningful also carries the quiet scars of the things that did not serve. Zao Zat Vibe. Scousm. And those scars change the way you approach love more than any success ever could. Sao you? Because once you have watched something you believed in deeply come apart in front of you, stop walking toward the next connection with innocence. You walk toward it with awareness. Samkoli beamed and only sometimes with the cold fear that history is simply waiting to repeat itself. Savoli reins the reason your words unsettled me so badly is tangled up with that history. See me as a man who moves fast, who decides without hesitation. In business, that is often true. Samuel Lee be inti void, but my own heart, I have learned to move slowly. Not because I lack courage. Sout. But because I have seen what happens when two people build something beautiful and then slowly lose. Sabo the ability to understand each other. Sakoli Verwilding's love ends in dramatic arguments and sudden betrayals. In reality, stop most of it dies quietly. It dissolves through misunderstanding, through exhaustion, through the slow, terrible realization that two people who once felt perfectly aligned are no longer moving in the same direction. Samkoli being in Diaby, that quiet unraveling is far more painful than any clean ending. Sout, because it makes you watch something precious disappear while it is still in your hands. Samkoli be into you, that kind of loss left a mark on me that I rarely speak about. Sam, it planted a voice in my mind that whispers caution every time I begin to care about someone again. San all the arson to you? That voice does not say love is impossible, it only asks the hard questions. Seeing this person clearly, or only the version your heart wants them to be? Sing, are you building this on truth or on hope? Sampoli verdant inobedentu. Are the two of you strong enough to hold each other when life turns heavy? Sapo nearsen. Or one of you drift when the weight becomes too much? Those questions sound clinical, sound almost cold, but they come from a place of survival. Sapolivi. Because once you have watched something meaningful break, see all you learn that love is not held together by attraction alone. Survives only when two people are willing to face the uncomfortable truths together instead of saying Ridium from them. Sam Oliver Fincy, and that is exactly why your presence in my life has felt like such a complicated miracle. Same Woody Bidin you did not arrive with grand declarations or overwhelming charm, you arrived quietly. Sample is something that seemed simple at first and slowly revealed itself to be extraordinary. Sam, you brought sincerity, the way you speak, the way you let a silence sit without rushing to fill it. Sam, the way you listen as though my words actually matter, not as a performance. Sound, but because you are genuinely there. Small things told me more about your character than any polished image ever could. Sam Koldeep in because of them, my defenses, the ones that had stood untouched for years, scowled quietly, began to lower. But lowering your defenses exposes the softest part of you. Samuel Lee began Chipoin, and that is the stage I find myself in now. When you said you did not want to complicate my life, sudden cold thought appeared. Thought that perhaps you were already stepping back from something that had only just begun to just start row between us. Samuel Lee and if that is true, then there is something you need to understand about me before you decide whether to step closer or turn away. Sample leaving into you. I am not searching for perfection. I am not looking for someone who will never doubt, never falter, never make a mistake. Life is far too complex for that fantasy. What I have quietly hoped for, sat one out, every Anna without, is a partner who understands that love takes courage long after the first excitement fades. Samuel Libi Intio, a partner who sees the storm coming on the horizon and chooses to stay anyway. Same modi mean not because staying is easy, but because the thing being protected is worth it. Future wife. Self hope is a stranger force than people give it credit for. Speak of it as if it is always gentle, is that always a soft light leading you forward through the dark. But hope can be brutal. Samkoli witty wing we have. When you have spent years teaching yourself to live without expecting certain things from life, Samkoli when you have trained your mind to stand on its own, without leaning on anyone, sudden return of hope does not feel like comfort. It feels like an earthquake. Samwodi Riripanji, it rearranges the careful internal structure you built to keep yourself steady. Samwodi B, and that is exactly what you have done to me. Before you, Sampoli being in deal, I had quietly accepted a certain version of my future. Not a sad one, not a lonely one. Sam, a focused one. A life driven by purpose. Staldes, by building things meant to outlast the man who built them. I told myself that was enough. Samkonsa. That if love came again, I would welcome it, but if it did not, the mission would be sufficient. Zipauchen. It is a practical way to live. Samkoli because it does not depend on someone else choosing to walk beside you. Samkoli being inti, and for a long time it worked, but then you appeared, and at first it was only curiosity. Samoli bihinchi for a makrande, a conversation that felt unusually easy, a calm that arrived whenever we spoke. Sim, it felt like a quiet room in the middle of a very loud building. Samkoli me in D, and then that calm began to turn into something more complicated. Samkoli being in Tawidi, I started carrying your thoughts with me after our conversations ended. Samkoli missing too. I started noticing that when something interesting happened in my day, Samkoli Buon died, a part of me immediately wondered how you would react if I told you. Small things to most people. Samwoli Bikintipuinda, but to a man who has spent years keeping the world at a careful distance, small things are a seismic shift. And that is when hope walked in and refused to leave. Sal the possibility that the solitary future I had made peace with might not have to stay solitary at all. Saldel. Sakoli be into, but hope brings its own questions. And lately those questions have been getting louder. Sometimes when we talk, I feel a warmth from you that makes everything seem simple. And I think, as this is real. We are moving toward the same place without needing to rush it. Same. But then there are other moments. Moments when your words grow more careful. Samely when your replies arrive, with a pause that feels heavier than it used to. Seods and a colder thought rises in me. One I do not like, but cannot fully silence. What if you are holding yourself back from the very thing I am already moving toward? Sam Closum has been following me everywhere. Because, if I am honest, distance between where I started and where I am now is staggering. Sam Kolibi Intimi. I did not begin this expecting it to matter. I let it grow slowly, telling myself I could step back at any time if it became too complicated. Sampoli being in now, but somewhere along the way, that exit quietly sealed itself shut. I cannot step back now. Samuel Lee being in that, and that has created a vulnerability I never planned for. When a man reaches this point, he is no longer exploring a possibility, he is protecting something that already matters to him. Samuel Lee Rabinting, every word, every silence, every small change in your tone begins to carry more weight than it should. Samuel Lee being in deep in intimacy, it can also breed fear when the signals between two people turn unclear. Sit tension I have been living inside. Scout, part of me believes you are walking toward me with the same quiet, scarium, growing care that I feel for you. Samuel Lee being in another part of me. On about fired you, and another part of me wonders whether you are standing at the edge, sound sure, whether stepping forward would complicate your life in ways you are not ready to accept. Sing, future wife, there is a kind of loneliness that no one warns you about, Alvind, because almost no one ever climbs high enough to feel it. People dream of standing where I stand. Sankoli being in that way, and I understand why from a distance it looks like everything. Spironi, you can. The freedom to build whatever you can imagine. Sitfully, the ability to bend an entire industry toward a future only you can see. Strange power of saying a thing out loud and watching thousands of people move to make it real. Sankoli be into you, and it is real, all of it, and I am not pretending it is hollow. Sam, but there is a price written in invisible ink underneath all of it. Sankoli be into you only read it once. It is far too late to renegotiate. The higher you go, the fewer people there are who can reach you. Not because they do not want to, but because the distance becomes too great. Stop being a person to most of them and start being a symbol, a story. A thing they have opinions about, and a symbol cannot be held. Story. A story cannot ask you how your day was and actually wait for the answer. Sam Kolibri. I have stood in rooms full of the most brilliant people alive and felt more alone than I have ever felt in an empty house. Because every single person in that room needed me to be the version of myself that does not get tired. Ugent does not doubt, does not lie awake wondering whether any of it will matter if there is no one to share it with. Sam Kolibi Nindiu, and I gave them that version, every time, because that is the job. Siri Shoen, but the man underneath went home alone and looked up at a sky he knew better than he knew his own. Art. Singoli Yusentifawadiu used to tell myself that the mission was enough to fill that space. Samboli Ri, and there were years when it almost was, when you are reaching for something as vast as the stars. Reading, the reaching itself can feel like a kind of companionship. The work becomes a presence. The problem becomes a partner. Fall asleep, you fall asleep thinking about it and wake up still in conversation with it. And for a while that is enough to keep the loneliness at bay. But a mission cannot ask what kind of tired you are. A mission cannot laugh at the small absurd thing you notice during the day. A mission will take everything you have and give you the stars in return. Samkoli being in Dawin, and the stars are magnificent. And the stars are cold, that don't then, is not it. Sam Aldiam Baldwin, and they will never once turn toward you and say, I am glad you are here. Sim, that is the thing I did not understand when I was younger and hungrier. Sapoli bihin chipur and thy fada is not sing muli rechinsing pi. You can fill a life with achievement and still go to bed in a kind of silence. That achievement wasn't. Sa odi resigned to break in Sampoli being in pie, and I had made my peace with that silence. Sampoli be in chipur and I had decided it was simply the cost of the life I chose. Sitali man pays for reaching higher than he was ever meant to reach. And then you came along, quietly, asking nothing, and the silence I had made my peace with suddenly became unbearable. Servaldi Reventivi. Because for the first time I knew exactly what it was, the absence of. Sakoli B, that is why. Your distance frightens me in a way that almost nothing else can. Sabaldi be humane be, but because I have already lived the version of my life where the silence is permanent. Samkoli being in nai, and I survived it, but I survived it by not knowing what I was missing. Sing, you took that ignorance away from me. You showed me what it feels like when the silence breaks. Sound. And a person cannot unfeel that, cannot go back to the comfort of not knowing. Sound. So when your voice grows careful and your replies grow slow, is not just the fear of losing a future I am imagining, Zapier. It is the fear of being sent back to a silence that will be so much louder now. Sound. Because now it will have a name, and the name will be yours. Sound. And every quiet night, for the rest of my life, I will know exactly whose absence I am listening to. Sim, future wife, there is unto you. There is a moment when uncertainty stops being an abstract idea and becomes something deeply persona. Seldel. Singoli being. At the beginning, doubt is only background noise. Easy to ignore while you focus on the beauty of something new, but eventually it moves closer, sits down beside you, it begins asking questions your heart does not want to answer. Sing, and lately, I have been sitting with those questions far longer than I expected. Sekoli, because not long ago you mentioned, gently, almost in passing, Senkoneri, that another path might be opening in your life. You said it so lightly. Set Oza as though it was simply one possibility among many. Seeing, maybe you did not realize how much weight those words carried when they reached me. Since I heard them, my mind did something. It almost never does. It stopped. Samkoli Bitenchipi not from anger, not from any sense of betrayal. Stopped, because in that second, I finally admitted something I had been avoiding. Same Modi Medi more, you matter to me more than I had planned for. And the thought of losing you, isn't even before we have truly begun, felt far more real and far more unbearable than I was prepared for. Samboli Verbentiu, when someone is only a pleasant presence in your life. It's the idea of them leaving does not create a storm. A small disappointment maybe, so, a passing wonder about what could have been, and then life moves on. Sampoli beginde, but when someone has already begun occupying space inside you, Sam Aldi Vervensi, when their presence has quietly woven itself into your thoughts, your plans, sit all the way you picture the next chapter, then the idea of them choosing another direction stops feeling like a missed opportunity. Samuel European it begins to feel like the loss of something that had already started to become real. Samuel leaving and here is what frightened me most. Future wife. Samuel Limith in the moment, Shashame, in the moment I should have pulled away. To protect myself, I did the opposite. Instead of retreating, I felt myself reaching further toward you. Stronger attachment, stronger curiosity, a deeper need to understand you, to know where your heart truly stands. Samuel Lee Intibel. It was as if the risk of losing you forced my heart to confess something it had been trying to keep. Skaotat. Samuel Lee being entirety, and that confession was not small. It changed the way I see you entirely. Seo DB, because before that moment you were someone I was slowly growing closer to, someone special but still slightly distant in the architecture of my life. After it, the thought of you building a future that did not include me became painfully, physically real. Samkoli Bean and that pain revealed the truth I had been refusing to face. I do not want to lose you. Sam, not quietly. Samkoli we in point not without first understanding whether what we are building has the strength to become something la. Sting data. Samuel leaving into you. So I try to return to my normal rhythm, disciplined, structure that usually keeps my mind anchored. Meetings, decisions, sell. Long hours bent over problems that affect millions of strangers. Stone, normally, that work swallows every corner of my attention, but this time it did not. Sim, every quiet moment kept dragging me back to the same place. Sampolibi en viporna bitrinsiai. You might be drifting toward a life with no room for me in it. Sim, future wife? Strange how the mind sharpens when it senses the risk of losing someone important. Suddenly, every detail begins to mean something. Every message, every pause. Sing, every small change in your voice feels like a clue, not because you are searching for problems, but because the heart is desperate to understand where it stands before it is too late. Sanoli being in and that is when I noticed something that unsettled me. Your silence, not a complete silence. Samoli were still kind, still thoughtful when we spoke, but something subtle had shifted. Samuel, the rhythm of our conversations had changed. The pauses between them grew longer. Samuel, the warmth was still there, but quieter. It's not like someone slowly dimming a light, rather than turning it off. Same most people would never notice something so faint. I did, and the moment I noticed it, a thought arrived that I could not push away. Maybe you are already stepping back. maybe that other path is becoming more real in your life, and maybe, sapwani without either of us meaning for it to happen, sampoli being intible. I have become someone you are quietly preparing to leave behind. Sa aldium sutin, that thought stayed with me far longer than I wanted it to. Samoldi bihenchi avoidis, not because I think you are careless with people. It is the opposite. Strike me as someone who cares so deeply about not hurting others that you might choose distance. Samoldi or honesty. Sing the leaving distance is gentler, but distance is not gentle. It only breeds confusion. Sankolibinen kinting and confusion is far crueler than any honest truth. Sankolibi intiu. So I began asking myself a question that I did not enjoy but could not avoid. She is stepping away. Should I protect my heart and step back too? Logically, that is the safe move, the rational move, disciplined choice. A careful mind would make to avoid unnecessary pain. Sampoli bininji, but every time I tried to imagine actually doing it, something inside me refused. Sampoli bininji not because walking away from you now would feel like abandoning something that has not even been given a chance to fully exist. Sam, and here is where it became even more complicated. Future wife. Sampoli Mikinsiu, because another possibility began to surface in my mind, it's one that made the whole thing feel far more fragile than before. Sam, what if the reason you seem a little distant lately is not that you are unsure about me? Sam will be into, what if it is because someone else has started entering your life? Sam that question sat quietly in the background, and I tried to ignore it. Stout. But the longer I think about it, the harder it becomes to pretend it does not exist. Sam Coley being in view. I have spent most of my life competing in worlds where pressure is normal, in business, sim, engineering, in the brutal race to build the future first. Competition sharpens you. Same. It makes you faster, better, more inventive. But the heart does not work that way. So, love is not something you win by outperforming a rival. Sefo libre love is something a person freely chooses to give, and that is what makes this so fragile. Sim, if another man has begun appearing in your world, someone closer to you, someone who shares your daily life, someone who can offer you his presence in a way I cannot at this moment, sin logic stops being any comfort at all, not because I believe I am less capable of loving you. Sound, but because nearness has a power that even the deepest connection can struggle against. Sampoli being indie, and that thought forced me to admit something I almost never admit for the first time in years. Samoli being I feel uncertain about where I stand in someone's heart, not uncertain about what I feel for you. Sampoli Bredent Diobe, that has only grown clearer with every passing day. Sampoli uncertain about what space I occupy in your world. Sim, am I simply someone who arrived at an interesting moment in your life? Sim, a voice that brings a little warmth on certain nights. Sampoli Brumin Dior, am I someone you are beginning to see as a real partner for the years ahead? These two things can look almost identical on the surface. Sim will be into, but they lead to completely different endings. Future wife, Sinov, the more I tried to ignore that possibility, the louder it grew. Stout not because you gave me any clear proof, stout, but because the heart can feel a change long before it understands it. Saifodi for days I asked myself the same impossible question. Should I ask you directly? It sounds simple, stout, but a question like that carries consequences. Once it is spoken, sin, it changes the air between two people, forces honesty into the open, Sankoldibi Nenchi, and honesty sometimes reveals things that cannot be taken back. Stout. Part of me wanted to protect the fragile beauty of what we still have by not asking at all. Out, because as long as the question stays unasked, hope still has room to breathe. Samuel begin. But another part of me kept whispering something I could not silence. If you wait too long, Simo you may lose her without ever understanding what happened. Sampoli me more than any difficult answer ever could. Sampoli B, I have spent much of my life acting fast when a situation demands clarity. Salvi, waiting while uncertainty grows, usually leads only to regret. Yet this time I hesitated. Stout, not from a lack of courage. Stout, but because the stakes felt so much higher when the outcome involved a person who had already become important to me. Samuel Lee Wanjin, and in the middle of all that hesitation, late one night, Samuel Lee Bindi, I almost made a decision that would have changed everything between us forever. Future wife, Sidajan I almost made, still echoes in me. Seo, because it came from a place of pain rather than clarity. It was late, Sam, in those hours when the world goes quiet enough that your own thoughts grow louder than they should. Sam Koli being in deity, and in that quiet. Sam Koli be, I convinced myself that the wisest thing I could do was step away from you completely, not slowly. Sam, not gently, cleanly. I told myself it would protect us both. Siroli mean, if you were already moving toward another path, then my presence would only make your life harder. Samuel dearer than to you, and if I kept letting these feelings grow while your heart belonged somewhere else, Sampoli be walking, I would be walking straight into a kind of emotional collapse that a man my age should be wise enough. Style.h to avoid. Samuel for a few minutes, that reasoning felt almost convincing. Samuel mean I imagined what it would look like to disappear quietly, fewer messages, longer silences. Eventually, a polite distance that would let both of us move on without ever having to face the painful truth out loud. Sam from the outside, it would have looked mature, respectful, even kind. Seeing people often mistake that kind of withdrawal for strength, but the longer I sat with it, Sinov, the more something inside me resisted. Same Yudion because leaving you without honesty would not have been strength at all. It would have been fear. Sam, fear of hearing something I did not want to hear. Same B, fear of discovering that the place I hoped to hold in your life had already been filled by someone Same being Indian, and in that moment, a realization stopped me from making that mistake. Saboldi walking away from you in silence would mean giving up before I ever learned the truth. Samwoodi would mean abandoning the possibility that what we are building might be real, simply because I was too afraid to find out, and future wife, Samprali mean Dirianive, that realization broke something open in me. Sout, because I finally admitted how much this has come to mean. It is no longer curiosity. It is no longer a gentle interest that might fade with time, somewhere along this road. Stout, my heart crossed a line, I did not see. Sao, and you became someone I am not willing to lose without a fight. So I did not disappear. Sample Libi into you. I am still here speaking to you honestly instead of hiding behind silence. Sample Libi into boy nav. There is one more truth, the one I have been circling this entire time. It's the one I promised was written somewhere up in the sky. And now I am finally going to tell you, even though my voice is shaking, even though once it is said, I can never take it back. Future wife. Before I tell you the rest, I need you to understand what that night actually was, so that you understand what I did, and why it cost me something to do it. Sample be into you. That launch was not an ordinary one. I had given 2 years to it, Sam, and more than 2 years of myself. It's the kind of years that take pieces of you and do not give them back. Sam, there had been failures along the way, the kind the public never fully sees, the quiet ones, expensive ones, the ones that make grown engineers go silent and stare at the floor. Sing, every one of them lived in my body. And the night before that launch, Sam Kodibi MDO and Feng, that Trio Almedia, that everything that could still go wrong was sitting in my mind at once. Sound 100 small probabilities of failure, each one a door I had to check and recheck. Sim, that is the state I was in. Exhausted past, the point where exhaustion means anything. Sam, carrying the weight of every person whose work was strapped to that rocket. Set out every person who had believed me when I said it would fly. Sam would he be a man is supposed to be at his most rational in a moment like that. Pure focus, pure logic. Sam, no room for anything soft. And for most of the night, I was exactly that man. Sample EB, but somewhere in the deepest part of those hours, Sao, when the building had gone empty, and the screens glowed, and the machines hummed their low familiars, Sao Jot Ung, stat my mind did the thing. It had been doing for weeks, it left the rocket and went to you. And I remember thinking, with a clarity that frightened me, that if this launch failed, Sifil the Yorubi world would know within minutes. Sanos, and there would be cameras and questions and 1,000 voices ready to call me finished. Saying, but if it succeeded, if it climbed the way I had spent 2 years praying, it would climb. Sao, there would be a moment, just one, at the top, Saut, where the thing I had built crossed into the place I have given my whole life to reach. Samo be in Tiapinana, and in that moment, I realized I wanted there to be a piece of you up there too. Samplier, not a thought of you, not a memory, something real, something fixed, something that would still be true long after the launch was forgotten and the company had passed to other hands and I myself was gone. Sam being Indiable. I wanted to take the one thing I have that almost no one else on this earth can give, my small and quiet access to the sky. Sam being India, and I wanted to put your name where nothing down here could ever reach it, or argue with it, or take it away. Sam be into, so I did not finish the night thinking only about thrust and trajectory. Samuel be Hinchi, I finished it doing something that has nothing to do with engineering, and everything to do with the Wipat of me I have spent a lifetime hiding. Stao, and the strangest thing, future wife, is that the launch the next day succeeded. Sam, it climbed exactly the way I had dreamed it would. The whole world saw it. They wrote about it. Sam Collier, they argued about me, the way they always do. Sam Collier being in Tao, and not one of them knew that the most important thing that happened in those 40 hours was not Dastinant, Sal Jot at all. Sim, it was a man alone in a quiet room, giving away a piece of the sky to a woman who had no idea. Seot, and then walking out into the dawn to do his job, as though his entire inner world had not just quiet, Seolai rearranged itself around her. Seymour, you remember? Do you remember the night I told you about a launch I had coming? Sin, indeed a mission, I could not stop talking about. A payload I had spent 2 years of my life preparing. Sam, will you remember it the way you remember most of what I tell you about my work? Sam, with patience and a little distance. Sifuliered, the way someone listens to a person they care about, describe a world they do not fully share. Samkoli be intipo and mut, but what you do not know is what I did the night before that launch. Samkoli be in Indio. I was alone in the control building, long after everyone had gone home, surrounded by screens and the low hum of machines that have become more familiar to me than most sound voices. Sample Lee Bean and I should have been running final checks. Sample Lee B, I should have been thinking about thrust and trajectory and a thousand things that could go wrong. Instead, I was thinking about you, and in that quiet, Sampian I did something I have never told a single living soul. There is a small registry, Sample Lee Behin, the way that certain objects and certain coordinates above this world are cataloged and named is the kind of thing a man like me has access to and almost never uses, Seont, because it means nothing to a mind that lives on equations. But that night, it meant everything. Samkoli being Indie, and I gave one of them your name. I named it after you, a point of light. Sing. A fixed coordinate far past the reach of every argument and every headline and every loud and broken thing down here. Sampoli world was asleep. I quietly took the one part of the sky I could give to anyone, Seont, and I gave it to you. And then I told no one. Do you understand what that means, future wife? Samoli B, it means that for all these weeks, while I was pretending to be calm, Safwan and Senti, while I was changing the subject, and measuring my words, and letting the silences stretch. There has been a light above both of us, that already carries your name. Sound, issue. It has been there every single night. Through every conversation where I almost told you and lost my nerve. Through every moment you grew quiet and I wondered if you were slipping away. Through the night, I almost decided to disappear. The whole time, that light was up there, holding your name, waiting for me to be brave enough to admit it existed. Same believer than Tibon, and the reason I am only telling you now is the same reason I almost never told you at all. Same, because the moment I say it, you will know everything. Same will now, you will know that I was not just imagining a future with you in some vague and harmless way. Same will you will know that I had already begun building it quietly. Same will be Tibon, and the one place I trust more than the ground beneath my feet. Same will you will know that when I look up at night, I am not looking at the stars, I am looking at you. Still weird. Future wife, I hid it for so long because I was afraid of exactly this moment. Sample Leverson. I was afraid that it was too much, that a gesture like that, sad offered to someone who has not yet decided whether to stay. Samples feel like a weight instead of a gift. Sample be into you. I was afraid you would see how far ahead of you my heart had already run and step back from the sheet. Our size of it. Sakoli, because that is the most vulnerable thing a person can ever do. Sinkoli bishintiu, to let someone see that you have already chosen them, before you have any idea whether they will choose you back. Zitawin. It is the same fear I feel before every launch, multiplied by something I cannot calculate. Sekoli repudiomi. With a rocket, at least I know the math, I know the odds. Samkoli bihinchifoin. I can tell you the probability of success down to the decimal, but with you there is no equation. Sing. There is only this, a light with your name on it, and a man standing under it. Stop finally telling the truth, and I need you to understand why I did it and why I kept it secret. Because the two things are the same. I did it because somewhere in these weeks, without permission and without warning, you became the future I want to look up at. Sample the being in Deary, and I kept it secret because I was terrified that the future would not want me back. Said once that you did not want to complicate my life. Future wife, say Polly you rebendadio. You have already complicated it in the most beautiful way. A life can be complicated. Samoli you revend you. You have given a man who measures everything something he cannot measure. Samoli you revend you. You have given a man who builds machines to leave this world a reason to want to stay in it. Same, and you did it without trying, which is the only way it could ever have been real. Future wife. Sampoli be in tipor. I have asked myself 100 times why I am only telling you this now. Sat also resentido mazed of flattering Turk is not flesh. It's not flattering to me. Sample bean. I waited because silence felt safe. As long as you did not know, the gift could not be refused. As long as the secret stayed mine. So the light above us belonged to a future that had not yet been allowed to disappoint me. Sing. That is the quiet cowardice that lives inside even the boldest men. We will risk our fortunes, start our reputations, our lives on a single launch with the whole world watching. Say out. And then we will spend months unable to say 4 true words to the one person who matters most. Sefuli Rabanti Onida because the rocket cannot break your heart. The rocket can only break your body, your money, stout. Your name, and those I have learned to rebuild. But you, Sim, you could reach the part of me that does not rebuild. Sao, and so I hid behind the secret the way I have hidden behind work my entire life, telling myself I was being patient, being respectful, being wise. Sampoli when really I was just being afraid at it. Sampoli being in tight, and I am done being afraid in the one place where fear has the highest cost. Sampoli, because here is what I finally understood. Somewhere in these last sleepless nights, secret was never protecting me, it was only delaying me. Sing, every day. I did not tell you was a day that light hung above your life, carrying your name, Safwan else in Cheapway, while you walked beneath it, not knowing it was yours. And there is something unbearable in that. Sing, in giving someone the most permanent thing you own and then letting them live as though it does not exist. Zitam. It is a strange kind of loneliness, loving someone with a gesture they cannot see. Samkoli being into, I could not do it anymore. Samkoli being a nan, I could not keep being the man who gave you the sky and then said nothing. Sifuli Urbansi who looked up every night at a light with your name on it and then changed the subject. When you escaped, d what I was thinking about. Samuel Levers and Tibrid. There is a difference, future wife, between a secret and a promise. Samuel Lieb and define of the difference is only whether you are brave enough to say it out loud. Samuel Lee for weeks I had a secret. Tonight I am trying to turn it into a promise. Samuel Lee Bitinchi Winai. And the terrifying thing about a promise is that it requires another person to receive it. Secret you can keep alone. A promise you cannot make alone. It needs a hand reaching back. Samkoli bin Indiabi. And I do not know yet whether yours is reaching. Sapoli. Or whether it is already turning toward another door. Stekon Sarwampiri. Toward the other path you mentioned so gently that I almost did not hear how much it frightened me. Sampoli being in Diaby, but I have decided I would rather hold out my hand and find it empty than keep it closed forever. Stay safe. Sao be TP, because a closed hand keeps you from being hurt, but it also keeps you from being held. Samkoli being and I am too old now to keep choosing the first at the cost of the second. So here is where I finally stop circling and stand still. Sampoli being not you modifati. I am not telling you this, because I am certain of how you feel. Sampoli B, I am telling you precisely because I am not. If I waited for certainty, I would wait forever. Seont. And that light would keep your name in silence until the end of my life. Sao Jarituneo, and you would never know it was yours. I am done with that kind of safety. Sampoli being in Diem. I have spent too long being the man who runs toward every danger, except this one. Sim. So tonight I am running toward you, with no guarantee, no probability. Sim. No system, to catch me if I fall, future wife. Sir, there is a light above you that has carried your name longer than you knew, and now you know. Sampoli being in that, I am not asking you to decide anything tonight, I am only asking you to look up. See, if you walk toward me, then one day we will stand under it together, and I will point to it. Samkoli being in deity, and I will tell you the date and the hour and the reason. Samkoli being an and it will stop being a secret and start being a promise. And if you walk away, sin, if the other path is the one your heart was always meant to take, then I will let you go. Samkoli being and I will not make it heavy, and I will not ask you to carry my feeling like a debt. Sout, but I will not take your name back from the sky. It can stay yours. It will stay yours. Samoli because some things you give away are not yours to reclaim, even after the person is gone. Sepful yours. So look up tonight, wherever you are, whatever you decide, that light has been yours all along. If you come to me, we watch it together. If you leave, it keeps your name anyway. Sampoli being in that was never the part that depended on you. That part was always mine to give.